And welcome everyone to Teachers Talk Live, the podcast for K-12 Solutions. On episode 14, we are discussing effective teacher-parent communication in our schools and how we can promote it. On our panel today, we have some accomplished teachers, principals, professors, and authors on this very subject. On today's show, we want to highlight specific strategies and tools to foster strong communication between teachers and parents. We also want to discuss the challenges U.S. schools face in this regard. Let's have an open dialogue on socioeconomic status, culture, language, etc., and how these promote or hold back effective communication. Where does effective teacher-parent communication rank in importance to you in regards to a successful educational system? We encourage your questions and comments through our chat box at teachcow.com/live or by tweeting with the hashtag EduLive. So let's go ahead and begin with our panelists, beginning with Chad. If you could give us an introduction.
Good evening, Dr. Chad Malcolm. I'm an assistant professor of early childhood education at Baldwin-Wallace University in Cleveland, Ohio.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Eric Lowe. I'm a middle school principal, grades 5 through 8 in East Liverpool, Ohio, and recently co-authored a book with Ryan on our panel called Your School Rocks.
Nice. Welcome. Ryan?
Hi, I'm Ryan McLean. I am the intermediate principal at Big Walnut, which is just north of Columbus, Ohio, and co-author of a new book called Your School Rocks. So tell people and ways that we can bridge the communication gap with families.
Nice. And Zach?
My name is Zack Clancy, and I currently teach middle school special education at the Bruce Randolph School in Denver. I am also a doctoral candidate and a graduate assistant at the University of Northern Colorado, and I make a semi-monthly podcast about education called Teacher Talk with Zack Clancy.
It's everybody, welcome. So our topic today is on effective teacher-parent communication. So I guess the first thing we can start off by discussing, and you let me know what else. The first thing I'd like to hear about is the tools that, the latest tools that you guys are using to make effective teacher-parent connections, and that we can start with anyone.
I was what I try to work with my pre-service teachers is to try to introduce them to the different platforms that are out there for Mind 101 and different things as such that, and to also just encourage them that you can still pick up the old phone and make that connection with your parent through a phone call.
That's true, the traditional phone. I
right?
think that's an important thing, yeah.
Right.
I think parents appreciate that.
Kind of building on what he said, what Chad mentioned, we do use handwritten notes to kids to encourage them when something positive happens at school. Parents still do like that old-fashioned communication, but also looking at other platforms where we can reach people in a more quick, efficient manner, using things like Instagram and Facebook and Flipboard to get pictures and information out to as many people as possible.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. I would say that's social media at my school has been a great way to get sort of students to share information about the school with their families. I don't know necessarily if there's been many instances of teachers and parents communicating over social media, but I definitely see students promoting the school on social media.
Nice. So what has been your experience as far as parent-teacher communication, at least from what you've seen in your teaching experience and in your students, etc.? What has been your experience? Has it seemed very positive, or what are some of the challenges?
I will say that the 14 years I spent in the classroom, I made a very conscious and concerted effort to communicate the positives to the parents more often than any negatives. I would try to call anytime their son or daughter had done anything that was remarkable or needed praise, and if there was something that needed to be handled, such as like behaviorally, I tried to take care of most of that inside the classroom, so that I wasn't trying to always be calling the parents for that negative side.
Right.
We also have teachers, parent communication through Remind, as Chad mentioned, which seems to be a positive way for them to let parents know on a daily basis what's happening. But we also have teachers who are putting examples of student work on Twitter and some of the things going on daily in the classroom there, or Instagram, and parents like that as well, and that's well received.
How do speaking of Instagram, how did the parents respond to that amount of social media? And like in the school that I taught, and this was might have been a different group of parents, but my type of parents, lower socioeconomic Hispanic parents would object to having anything having to do with social media as far as pictures or any information about their kid and that type of thing. What is it like on your end?
Pretty well received at our district. We basically have you're in and you can opt out. So we send home a form at the beginning of the year that explains how we're going to use social media and how we're going to use different forms to promote what kids are doing in the school. And parents can send in a form if they want their child out of that. But we also use Instagram to post a daily morning message so that kids see like some positive character message each day to start their day. And parents seem to really like those different aspects where they can kind of see what's happening on a daily basis rather than a student just saying, what happened to school today? Nothing. They're actually seeing it.
Right.
How do you think that affects your climate? You're saying that parents can actually see their kids and what they're up to. Do you think that makes a huge difference in the type of climate and the interactions that the teachers have with the parents as far as preventing any type of conflict or any type of misunderstanding?
From our school, absolutely, and one of the reasons we made the jump was I'm fortunate in that my kids go to the school that I work at. So when they were in the elementary building and I had a meeting at their building, I would take the opportunity to pop my head in their class to see what was going on. And 99% of our families don't have that same opportunity. So we, just like Eric described, we do an opt-out policy, and we're pretty straightforward with our families up front. Hey, here's how we're going to use it. We don't use full names, so we don't identify kids on social media. And if a parent wants to opt out, that's great. We support that. We're not going to talk them out of it. But our building has 536 kids, and we only have 4 kids that have opted out. So it's the vast majority of families not only embrace it, but they really enjoy it.
Very nice. Zach, what is it like at your school as far as parent-teacher communication and the way that social media is used?
So that's a good question. At my school, what I've noticed with social media is that it's sort of an intermediary. I don't use it a lot to communicate with the parents I talk to. However, I teach special ed, so I have a fairly small group of parents. I know their preferred method of communication, so I just talk to them that way. But I would say, looking at the big picture, and building wide, that the school definitely uses social media to promote things, and it seems as though students will then convey that information to their parents. But it seems as though parents are not really, I mean, maybe they're just looking and not commenting, but if you look at our school's Facebook page, a lot of the comments are from students. You know, a lot of the dialogue happening on there is among students. From what I can tell, there is not much conversation with parents.
Nice. And
I think he brings up the point about comments. Oftentimes when we're talking to other schools about using social media, and we use Facebook, both Eric and I, our schools use Facebook, and that's the first thing that kind of makes people nervous that haven't jumped into this. Then we tell them, yeah, we allow comments too, and they look at us like we're crazy. But from what we found is as long as you keep it positive, they're going to be positive.
Right.
I've been involved in using Facebook with our school for about 4 years now, and I can count on one hand the number of times that we've had borderline negative comments back. Sometimes they're valid, sometimes they're not, but those conversations are happening by not allowing comments. Those negative conversations are still happening. But if we allow comments, at least I know they're happening and I can do something about it. And sometimes it's misinformation, and again, sometimes it's a valid point, but it allows me to pick up the phone and reach out to that family and try to figure out, you know, hey, if we've done something wrong, what can we do to make it right?
Right. So, guys, let's talk about the most effective teacher-parent communication that you guys can think of. We've already discussed how important is the handwritten note or the personal phone calls, but I know you guys are using, and those of you running schools are using pretty effective tools as far as technology. So, what are some of those innovative things that you're doing for your school?
I would say it may not sound as innovative now because with social media being such a bloom in the last few years with Instagram. Prior to that, I did a lot with when I worked in Head Start and in some private daycare sectors of I would just carry a digital camera around with me or bring my phone with me, and anytime I saw kids doing something great, I'd snap a picture of it. And as often as I could, I would just send those by email to mom or dad or grandma. And it's amazing the impact of getting a picture of your son or daughter, you know, building something in the block area or riding on the tricycle or shooting basketball on the playground can do for their mood during their workday.
Was that on your role as a teacher or administrator, or?
Yeah, I did that as a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just send out pictures, and one of the best stories I had was one of my family's in Pittsburgh. Mom was an executive secretary, and she came in to me at the end of the day. She brought me flowers, and she said, I was having the worst day to start. I had to be with my boss and fire a couple people, and she's like, I came back to my desk. I just felt terrible, and I saw a bright, beautiful, smiling face of my daughter playing on the playground, and it just made my day.
Nice. Yeah.
And it took me, 3 seconds to send that picture off to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Just to bounce off that, one thing I've found for sort of positive communications, that the workday is a great time to do that. Just for example, if you have a parent who won't be able to answer the phone when they're at work, that's a great time to call them and just leave them a voicemail and tell them about how their kid did a great job at something. That way, as you're saying, it's when they get off work or when they get a break and get a chance to check their voicemail, they have that to look forward to. And it's good because it prevents them from having to get defensive, and it sort of opens that dialogue so that next time you do call them, they're not just going to think you're calling to tell them that their kid, did something wrong. It definitely helps, build that rapport that helps open lines of communication like that.
Right.
One of the things that I started doing 3 years ago was we do a weekly video newsletter.
Nice.
Our parents weren't reading our paper newsletters or email newsletters, and I know this because I found them on the floor. I saw them in the library, and my own actions as a parent. My daughter had a great principal. She brought home a paper newsletter every Friday in her red homework folder, and I wasn't reading it. And is that partially my fault as a parent? Yes. But just as we wouldn't write off a kid because they're not, conforming to what we're doing in class, we would look for a better way to teach that kid, to engage them. So we wanted to find a better way to engage our families. So I actually got the idea from a principal in Virginia. He got the idea from someone else. And we do every Friday a 2 to 3 minute video, and our parents love it.
Nice.
We get anywhere from 600 to 800 views over a weekend, and I can guarantee you our paper newsletter wasn't getting 600 or 800 views. So we keep it short. They get to see what's going on. It's not just me talking. It's images that chat, kind of like Chad had mentioned, images of cool things their kids are doing, videos. We get the kids involved, and the parents love it. The first one I ever did was horrible. It was a train wreck, and I uploaded it to YouTube anyways, thinking this will be my first and last video newsletter, and the parents were like, next time, smile. But we love it, keep doing it, and we've done one every week since.
Nice.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, is it edited?
Yeah, I kind
or
of
is
stole
it...
that idea.
Oh, go ahead,
I
Eric.
stole that idea from Ryan. I stole that idea from Ryan, so to speak. I started that this year. Like last week, we had 1,000 views. We,
Nice.
with our 7th and 8th graders, we get and our 6th graders, we get a lot of them involved in trying to do something fun in it too, to showcase our kids. We also have done snow day videos. So we have our kids come up with writing a song to some current song, but make it a snow day song. And we posted that, and the one we had this year for our snow day got like 5,300 views in a day because of the people sharing it and that getting out. And also Flipboard, when we go to Washington, D.C., we use a hashtag to collect all the images that are on Twitter, Instagram, etc. We build it into a Flipboard magazine so parents have that for free that showcases the whole trip in pictures. And we get so many comments from parents like, hey, that's awesome. I don't get to go on that trip, but I experienced the whole trip with my kid because you guys are posting the words and the messages and the different monuments and also everything the kids are doing and having fun. So those are very powerful, and people get a lot of good feedback on them.
Someone had asked the question about how we edit it. We do everything on an iPad, and as I'm walking in classes throughout the week, if I see something great, I take a picture. So that essentially isn't taking me any extra time because I'm doing that anyways. I record my quick 30 to 60 second segment, and if I can do it in 1 or 2 takes, that's just a couple minutes. And it takes me about 12 to 15 minutes to edit, upload to YouTube. So really you're talking about a 15-minute time investment, and I was spending significantly more than 15 minutes making our email newsletter. When you come up with formatting and editing and proofreading, that was something I didn't look forward to. I knew it was necessary, but it was so time consuming. The video newsletter cuts that time commitment down significantly, and again, it's so much more engaging for our families, and the kids look forward to seeing it as well. Hey, I got in the newsletter this week, or maybe I'll get in next week, and they come and recruit me. Every day, kids will come to the office. Mr. McLean, come down to our room, check it out. And I'll go in and I'll watch what's going on, and something amazing is going on, and I take a picture, and it's on the newsletter, and they're so proud of that.
Well, and like you said, it's the effectiveness factor of it. I mean, you can do 1,000 newsletter, and if the brand doesn't pick it up, then it doesn't do any service to what you guys are trying to promote.
And it's not just about the views. I mean, we talk about, we get 1,000 views, or the snow day video gets 5,000 views. We don't get caught up on that, but what it's reinforcing is our positive message is reaching a lot of people. And
Right.
Public schools, and really schools in general in America, seem like they're always under attack, and we hear the negatives so much. And there's so many positives going on in schools all across the country, but those stories aren't getting out. So I can't control what's happening in schools all across America, but I can control what's going to happen in my school, and our teachers are working too hard to be getting blamed for things that aren't their fault. So I'm going to promote what they're doing, and I'm going to let the world know the amazing things that all of our teachers are doing. So if the rhetoric is about bashing schools, that's fine, but it's not going to be about our school.
But you know what? Ryan and Eric, with the title of your book, and what you're doing, I think it's more than just what's contained within your schools. I think you putting that message out there lets other principals, superintendents know that there is a path to positivity and to having a strong positive climate at your school. Tell us the title of your book again.
The title is Your School Rocks. For the people on video, there's a shameless plug. You can purchase it online at Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. And Eric and I, we both get the hesitation that administrators or superintendents might have, because we were in that boat. I banned devices my first year as a principal. Don't even bring your cell phone in. And it was finally the light, clicked for me that, why am I preventing a kid from bringing this powerful, what could be a great learning tool? Why am I banning it? Why am I focusing on the negative instead of looking at all the possible positives that could come with it? And, eventually did a 180, became so much of an advocate that we wrote a book about it. So I get the nervousness, I get the hesitation, but it's been a great thing for our school. It's been a great thing for our kids and our families and our staff.
Well, and with social media nowadays, and the stories that I've heard of, social media being as an avenue for bullying, other types of hassles within schools, it sounds like you guys are taking the approach of harnessing that power of social media to turn it into something positive. It's something that can be fruitful instead of negative.
Yeah, that stuff's going to go on regardless. So I think it's important that we model and show kids what you can do with social media, the powers that it does have in a positive light, how you can connect with other people, how you can grow as an individual, how you can get a positive message out there. And with our students at our school, I talk to students all the time, like, watch your evening news. You go from this bad event to that bad event to the upcoming storm to this athlete doing this, and there's a small snippet of something positive within there. Why is that? We need to talk about the good things that are going on and promote what we are doing well. Promote what we are doing good, and that message spreads. Jack Burkmeyer, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he has that book about choose optimism, and that hits home with me because a lot of things are how we look at it. It's the eyeglasses we take to look at our world. It's our perception is our reality. We can go to the same restaurant, have the same meal with the same waiter or waitress, and our perception may leave us with two different experiences. We got to control our attitude and how we look at things, and social media is one of those things, and today's world isn't going to go away, that we need to continue to use to promote our school in a positive light.
Well said. Chad, I wanted to ask you, in preparation, in teacher preparation, what amount or what aspect of the instruction time is dedicated to learning how a teacher should, or the best ways of communicating effectively with parents and that type of thing?
Right. We have at Baldwin Wallace, we have, for our early childhood preparation, which is pre-K to third grade, we have an entire class set aside, and it's one of the classes I teach. It's about family and community relationships and how to build those relationships with parents. And in that, we focus on not only the ways you can communicate daily, but I really do a lot with how to facilitate better parent-teacher conferences as well, because I really think that that's one of the areas as a beginning teacher, as I looked back on my career, that I was terrible at, was how to engage the parents well in a conference. while getting their feedback and getting my point across without, ruining the relationship I had built by misstepping or, culturally or language-wise. And so we spend a lot of time talking about that. I do a lot in our progress in our 200 levels on diversity, socioeconomic status, poverty, types of situations with our students, so they have a little better understanding of how those kind of situations can lend itself to parent-teacher relationships being strained. One of the biggest points I try to really drive home with them is, if you're working in a situation where, there's a single parent possibly, and you only do conferences from 8 to 3, mom or dad can't afford to take the day off work to come for your 15-minute conference. I struggled with that when I worked in Head Start, where we continually wanted to have our conferences during the day. And our parents would tell us, I see you every morning when I pick my kid or drop my kid off. I see you every afternoon. I don't need to come see you for another 15 minutes and lose an entire day's worth of pay. So it took a lot of time and consideration, and we started moving our conferences to the evening and offering childcare, and we started getting better turnout. So I really try to drive some of those points home with our pre-service teachers that, and we do some mock conferences. I have a partnership with a local daycare facility that we go during the kids' rest time, and their teachers serve as my parents. And they're all parents already, so they get to give our students the feedback at the end of, if I was a parent, this is what I thought went well. As a teacher, this is what I think you could have done better. So our students get a lot of good feedback from that opportunity.
Oh, that's great. That's a great exercise for them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, granted, I've been out of college for 17 years, but I don't recall receiving any training in, communicating with parents or, building that partnership or how to conduct a parent-teacher conference. And those are the things that are so important, and it's great to hear that schools like Baldwin-Wallace are, taking that on, because, when I hire a first-year teacher, I'm not expecting that teacher to be Teacher of the Year. There's going to be some mistakes, but, to get them to handle as many of those things or to have a comfort level is great.
Well, I think, especially being first-year teachers and such, the first impressions can either kill or boost that relationship. I mean, you meet that parent for the first time, and if you do not know how to interact well with them, then that can affect your whole year.
Yeah, and I think a lot of young teachers, heck, maybe even some veteran teachers, they're scared of those interactions and those tough conversations with parents. And if we can get as many good stories out there and good communication up front, once we get to that difficult conversation, it's much more manageable. For example, with the video newsletter, when I have to have a meeting with a parent concerning, a choice their child made, it's not combative, because I'll introduce myself, and more times than not, they'll say, "Oh, I already know you from your newsletters," or "I know what you stand for," and it's like they feel like they already know me. We're off to a good start. So now we're not having that debate of whether or not your son or daughter is guilty or innocent. We're having a conversation about how can we make sure he or she learns from this? How can we make sure he or she doesn't make the same mistake? And how can we set them up for success? So, building that rapport from the onset is going to pay so many dividends in the future.
I totally agree with that. It just seems like what you're doing seems amazing as far as that, that video newsletter, I'm sure, serves so well for your school. Do you guys know of other schools that are doing something similar? I mean, why are more schools not taking a more hands-on approach with parents like this?
Well, I would say and Eric jump in. The early feedback we've received from people who have read our book, that's been the one thing that they've tried, and it seems like the feedback they've received from their families has been positive. Why aren't more schools doing it? Because quite honestly, you're putting yourself out there.
Right.
When you upload that video to Facebook or you upload that video to YouTube, it's out there for everyone. And if you look like a goofball, or the first time I did it, I was like no facial expression, real monotone. I mean, that video is out there forever. So I think people are scared to make that leap, and that's a valid reason. But the dividends are so worth it to take that jump and do it and have fun with it. I mean, the first couple of episodes I just kind of did by myself and had videos, and then I had a kid who was sitting in the hallway because his mom was at the school for a meeting. So I grabbed him and said, "Hey, you want to be my co-host?" And we just hit it off. He stole the show, and he was my co-host for the rest of the year, and we had a good time with it. We had friendly banter back and forth, and usually I was the butt of the joke, but it made something for people to look forward to.
Yeah, I can only
like
imagine.
Ryan said, too, I think sometimes people are reluctant because they're probably not sure of there's so many things asked of today's educator, they're not sure of the investment of time. But it isn't like traditionally in the past when you tried to video something and you uploaded it and had to use it. The time investment for what you get back is not that demanding. I mean, like Ryan said, once you get comfortable with the platform, early on it may not be the best, but it is literally, as you collect things throughout the week, it's a 10 or 15 minute process in order to have that out there. And the same thing with like a Flipboard magazine. As you post things to Twitter or Instagram and you collect them through a hashtag, it's simply a matter of clicking a button that says put in the magazine. So as you build those things and you get used to the platforms, it just becomes a matter of habit or part of your daily routine that you take a couple minutes as you're walking from here to there, or you sit down and take a quick bite to eat, that you throw those things into there and start to build them. And I think people are unsure, and that is one of the nice things about the book is they have video tutorials. And like Ryan said, we've seen a lot of people so far with the video newsletter. And as a teacher, that's a great thing for in your classroom, to build that rapport with your parents and also highlight all the great things that you're doing as an educator and your students are doing.
Yeah, we just tell people, take it slow. Like, we're not saying, hey, do a video newsletter and create a Twitter account and an Instagram account and a Facebook account and make sure you're making Flipboard magazines and all, because then you're going to be overwhelmed. Just pick one thing, use it, see the reaction you're going to get, and then once that becomes part of your regular routine, it's not going to seem like one more thing, and then you can add something else. If you're at a high school, maybe more of your kids are going to be on Twitter. In a 5-6 building, my kids are on Instagram. So that was something that we started using to reach them because it was important. It wasn't just about communicating with our families. It was about communicating with our kids too. So, figure out where you're going to get the most bang for your buck and start there.
And it doesn't sound like that much of a time investment, as you guys have said, but I think that, like you said, it pays in dividends as far as there's a lot of parenting nowadays, in certain areas where, you've seen the cartoons where, it used to be, back then it used to be the teacher was always right, and then nowadays, like the kid is always right, and you have you may have parents that might come at the school kind of confrontationally, but like with something like a video newsletter or something like that, it kind of like dissolves a lot of that in the first place, because the representation of the administration and the teacher already is out there as someone who is positive and helpful,
Yeah, I think they get a better chance. There's more opportunities to get to know you, so to speak. You have these small snippets out there for several minutes every week. So like Ryan mentioned earlier, they feel like they know you. They have they feel like they've already had all these interactions with you, so they have an impression of you before maybe that negative experience that may happen occurs. There's all these other things along the way where they feel like they've gotten a better chance to know who you truly are.
So this is for anyone. How do you empower a teacher, a classroom teacher, to take on some of these tools as administrators and as fellow teachers, and as a professor of future teachers? How do you empower those classroom teachers to actually take on some of these tools and to use them effectively?
I don't have the exact number or percentages, but I would say the majority of our teaching staff has either a class Twitter account or a class Instagram account where they're essentially doing what we're doing at a school level but on a classroom level. So we encourage it. Again, our teachers know who's on that can't photo list, and make sure we don't include them in the photos. But again, if we don't use names, and it's not just about taking silly pictures and putting them on Instagram or tweeting them out or putting them on Facebook. It's about letting our parents know, hey, here's what we did today, to spark that dinner conversation. How many parents have their kid come home? What'd you do at school today? Nothing. Our parents have an instant. They don't have to ask that question because they already know what happened. Hey, I saw you guys were dressed up like Egyptians today in social studies class. Yeah, we did this, and this, and it starts that conversation.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as empowering teachers, like you asked, Oscar, I would say it's important to keep in mind that not everyone is as tech savvy as, say, the panelists and hosts of the show. And so it can be a bit overwhelming to someone who's new to it or not familiar with it, and I feel like when I'm talking to people, I will often, encourage them to just start with what they feel comfortable with. If there's a particular platform with which they're the most comfortable, start using that and sort of branch out from there. And I feel like social media is sort of used that way. It's used very holistically. You sort of jump from one site to another depending on what's most convenient. So it's a good starting point no matter where they feel most comfortable.
Right. As long as you make some kind of effort, right? If you begin somewhere, and I think nowadays there's a lot of colleagues and a lot of people that can actually help you and take on some of these things. What about Periscope? Is that something that helps with teacher-parent communication? Anyone have input on that?
It can. We've not used it in a setting where really it's that two-way communication. We've used it to broadcast our holiday band concert, choir concert, some things like that. We actually, and it's funny, we had a big state of the schools where we had our community come in and we had model classrooms going on so that parents could see how school is different than it was when we were in school. And I actually had a parent reach out to me and said, hey, I'm unable to make it, but I would love to see what was going on. Any chance you could use Periscope to broadcast it? And I'm going to be there anyways. I've got my phone. It doesn't matter if I'm standing, just watching things that are going on or holding up my device and recording what's going on. So we broadcast our state of the schools and then, again, tweeted that link out, put that link on our Facebook page so that people could experience it.
How cool. Now,
we periscoped the 9/11 ceremony this year because we couldn't get everyone outside to it in the location it was with the local law enforcement and safety personnel that attended. So that's what we did. We periscoped it, and that way all the teachers could watch it in their classrooms with the students, so everyone could still participate that was able to.
Oh, that's great.
Very cool.
Well, I will say, Oscar, that I'm making a whole lot of notes here for helping my future teachers, and if you all are looking as principals to hire people who are going to know how to do newsletters and the video newsletters, I have a feeling this is going to turn into a class assignment at some point to video newsletters, because I think that's just an incredible idea to get teachers into that habit of creating those types of documents. Because again, it's like you said, you can either spend 15 minutes writing a newsletter or an email and formatting it and proofreading it so it is perfect, or create a 2 or 3 minute video that now gets to show yourself and gets to show your kids better to your parents and grandparents, aunts, uncles. So that net all of a sudden becomes a lot wider to than just that communication back and forth between mom, dad, and you, or so I love the video newsletter, and I'm definitely going to look up Flipboard for the trip idea. I like that as well.
Well, here's the great thing about social media, especially Facebook. So we upload our video newsletter to Facebook, and inevitably families will share it or like it. Now that's getting distributed to their friends who may not be affiliated. Has that ever in the history of paper or email newsletters ever happened? I mean, I know I have never received an email newsletter and thought, hey, I'm going to forward this to all of my contacts. Interesting. Yet they do it with our video newsletter, so we're spreading our message of the positive things that are happening.
Right, that's recently. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chad.
No, and I think that is exactly. I think Eric had said it earlier that there's so much negativity in the world and so much about schools nowadays that anything positive that can get broadcast out to a wider net of people about about one class or about a school or about a district is an incredible idea.
Right.
We recently had a Derek Wolfe Day. He played for the Broncos in the Super Bowl and is our only school graduate who A, was ever drafted, and B, starts in the Super Bowl. And we throughout the day had activities where kids wished him good luck, or we had a big cutout of him, and students made a 95, and kids wore jerseys and a multitude of things. And throughout the day, I just kept taking pictures and video and throwing them all into a movie. And like Ryan said about the shares, we had 1,000 shares on that video, and it reached 100,000 people. I mean, there would have been no way anyone would have seen that, we did that outside of our school community. So we reached people who, were familiar with the school or him or a multitude of people, and were able to do that. And without social media and without the use of iMovie and things like that, we never would have been able to do something like that.
Right.
And here's the one thing I want to make sure that doesn't get overlooked, because I know Eric feels the same way. As much as we're about using social media and communicating, at the heart of our values is we want to make school an awesome place. We want to make school a place where kids are running into. And as an afterthought of that, I guess, we want to share that. So we're going to communicate the great things that are happening. We want great things to be happening, and then we share those things.
Nice.
Yeah, I actually had a situation the other day, Ryan, and I kind of thought of that because we had 3 kids that chose, our elementary get out an hour later in our middle and high school. 3 kids stayed because they wanted to play on the playground the one day it was nice. And my response was, isn't that an awesome thing that those kids wanted to stay at school? We definitely want our school to be that's just a tool to do that, but we want our school to be a place kids want to be. We want it to be a hub. We want kids to want to be there. We want kids to want to be involved in our activities. Just like last year, we had a lock-in for 7th and 8th graders. I had one kid say, "Hey, Mr. Lowe, can we spend the night?" I said, "Absolutely, we're going to spend the night."
Oh, wow.
And she thought I was joking. We had, out of 300 7th and 8th graders, we had 223 spend the night, and it was awesome. Wow. We had activities all night. We were closing our old school and opening a new school, so they were able to paint walls and do all kinds of, we had lip sync all night, different kids lip sync, teachers lip sync, I lip synced. It was one of the most memorable nights we could have ever had, from 7 at night until 7 in the morning, and people thought we would have nothing but problems, and it went off with a bang, with some support of some parents and teachers that were willing to stay as well. But I mean, things like that, I feel like have been enabled because of the culture created through making school a place kids want to be.
Nice.
Right.
And sorry to interject, but I actually have to leave a little bit early. I have to go teach a college class. So,
nice.
But it was wonderful to be a part of the conversation.
Hey, Zach, could you tell us how people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter. It's my handle is @TeachTalk WZC. So that's the word teach and the word talk, and then followed by the letters W, Z, and C. And then you can also get a hold of me if you want to email me, the old-fashioned way. You can get a hold of me at teachertalkwzc@gmail.com.
Thank you, Zach, for being on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me again. It was wonderful meeting everyone.
Nice to meet you as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
Bye.
Now, you guys, talking about all this social media makes me think about how far it reaches, because you think about the component of not only reaching the family unit at home, but possibly their grandparents in other states or even outside the country. Do you encounter that?
Yeah, I'll give you a good story. Not this past national championship, but the year before when Ohio State was playing Oregon, with us being 25 minutes away from Ohio State's campus, you can imagine we have a large Buckeye fan base in our school. And we had one student wearing an Oregon Ducks jersey the day of the national championship game. Well, there's a picture that's floating around on the internet. It's a fake class picture of like an elementary in Ohio, where one kid's wearing a Michigan shirt, which is Ohio State's rival, and he's kind of sitting off to the side, and all of the other kids are looking at him in disgust. So I say to the kid wearing the Oregon jersey, wouldn't it be funny if we recreated that photo? And he was like, yeah, that would be awesome. So at lunch, we polled some kids that were wearing Ohio State jerseys, and he was wearing his Oregon jersey, and he was off to the side. I took a picture, I tweeted it, and within 2 hours, ESPN was on the phone wanting to know if they could use that photo during the national championship. It got retweeted 500 times. It got picked up by Sports Illustrated, the Sporting News, all kinds of places. And again, it provided me with a platform of, I did a radio interview with a radio station out in Portland, Oregon, wanting to know about the picture, but it gave me an opportunity to talk about, hey, our school's fun. Kids look forward to coming here. This isn't about bullying. This is about kids accepting each other. So we actually kind of did it again this year. I'm a huge Notre Dame fan, so I was the one who was kind of outcast, and the local Ohio State fan clubs called 11 Warriors, and they tweeted out the photo and put it on their Facebook page. So again, it was never our intention. I thought, hey, maybe 10 or 15 people retweet this. I never thought in a million years we would be on the pregame show of Ohio State's national championship game, and Cardell Jones making a reference towards that picture in one of his post-game interviews. It was pretty neat. But I guess that goes to show how far-reaching it can be.
That's nice.
I think the important thing through all of this conversation is that we need to remember in a school that kids are going to remember the experiences they had, and they're going to remember how people made them feel. Yes, all the learning and all the things that go on are important, but at the end of the day, that's what kids are going to take away. And it's important that we don't lose sight of that and not take time to make sure that we make them feel special and let them know they matter, and at the same time create those experiences for them that they'll have for the rest of their life.
Well said. I think that's super important. So one question I have, though, what is the ethnic makeup of your schools?
We're not very diverse. I would say probably 95% of our student body is Caucasian.
Okay.
So we're I wouldn't say we're we're a rural school district, but we're not quite suburban. We're right in that middle ground. About 20% of our students are on free and reduced lunch.
Oh, okay. So, with that in mind, because I come from a more low socioeconomic, urban type background, and you probably see a lot more conflict in those type of schools. How can those schools apply some of you guys' initiatives as far as because as I'm thinking about it, your newsletter, for example, like I think that could be applied because you know everyone has cell phones nowadays. Everyone has access to cell phones, and no matter your income level, it seems like everybody has access to smartphones, and they have some kind of data plan that they can access. So, what other considerations can you think of?
Well, I was just going to say, based on the newsletter idea that you're talking about, coming from more of I think you said more so low socioeconomic idea and possibly Hispanic background.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome if you have the opportunity in your video newsletter, if you have a native Spanish speaker in your faculty or have access to one, if they could either do subtitled to the video, so that you can communicate that way as well. I think would be awesome. I spent most of my teaching career, I'm going to say all of it, in urban. I've always worked in large urban districts, and one of the things that we really strived very hard and really kind of talked a lot about in Head Start was a good portion of our parents are young. 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds that have one, maybe two children possibly, and they don't have a very good recollection of school themselves. They didn't have a good school career, and we have to reintroduce them to, it's not a scary place. Your children need you to be involved, and we're going to do everything we can to help you, feel comfortable in this situation and communicate as much positive as we can to you, because we need to rebuild that trust in those parents that are coming from those types of situations.
Right.
I would say you could also use Instagram for the daily morning positive message, because those kids, as soon as they're getting out of bed, are grabbing their phone, and getting on that. That's one of the first things they're going to do. And what a better way to get a positive thing in their hand the moment they hit Instagram is they see that message from you. So regardless if you have a conversation with them that day, or if you're not able to interact with every kid in your school in a big district, they're still seeing you put that out there regularly. And you can use Canva or some different apps, and you can get images of kids in your school even with the positive message overlaid. There's lots of different ways you could do that, but I would think that would be a great tool in a district like that, so that they see a consistent thing coming from the administration or the teachers.
Yeah, I was skeptical of the positive message on Instagram. Eric was doing it before I was, and I just didn't think kids would like it. I thought they're going to think we're intruding on their turf. I didn't think it was going to work, but hey, let's give it a try. And the first one I did was getting significantly more likes than the photos we were sharing. The photos we were sharing were popular, but what really amazed me was the kids were embracing us coming on their turf. They were embracing that positive message. So we continue to do it, and Eric does it every day. I follow very few people on our Instagram account, but he's one that we do, and every morning I see his daily message, and sometimes, I'll be honest, I steal it and I put it on ours. So the kids love it, and
Yeah.
sometimes I'll do something like a test, like, hey, give a random person a high five today, or give your teacher a high five, and when I'm in the hallways, I see it, so the message is hitting home.
Mm.
Yeah, well, I like the idea that Erica shared about the one app where you can grab images of your own students. I think that would be a real connection piece for the urban youth, the low socioeconomic. That again, they don't have maybe the most positive view of themselves, or of the situation that they're in, or of school in
Right.
general. And if you can start getting them connected, because again, we're all kind of egotistical, in nature. We like seeing pictures of ourselves pop up, and if you see a picture of yourself pop up on the Instagram account from school that says, "Hey, today we're all going to be brave," or whatever the positive message is, you're going to connect a little bit more. It's going to hit you a little differently than if you see a picture of a Minion or SpongeBob, or because that was me that was on that this morning, and then you're going to be kind of like a celebrity for the day, that you were the kid on the positive message this morning. And the idea of using that to build the climate and the culture in a school would be huge, I think.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a great point.
And I was going to say, I think one of the biggest takeaways that I'm getting from today's show is being able to grab social media and turn it around into something positive, especially when in some situations it can be really negative. In certain circumstances, we can't negate that there is a lot of bullying, a lot of negative stuff, self-image stuff that's happening to students online. But being able to take it and turn it into something positive, and facing it head on as opposed to avoiding it. I think that's really powerful.
One thing to think about that too is a lot of times, unfortunately, the same students who are misusing social media in the past were misusing paper pencil or misusing something else.
Right.
It just now reaches more people when they misuse it. So, I mean, we still use those other items, and I think as we model more positives and we continue to show what you can do in a positive light, that's going to overcome some of that negative that we do see.
Right.
Yeah, and it's all about communicating. It's not about just distributing information. If you're going to set up a school Facebook account and all you're going to do is say, "Hey, no school on Monday. These order forms are due on Tuesday. This PTO meeting's next Friday." If you're just going to spit out information like that, it's not going to be very effective. But if you're sharing great content, you're sharing those stories, and a picture might be the story, that's where it's going to gain some traction, and that's where it's going to be impactful on the families, on the kids, and on your school's climate and culture.
Right. So, you guys, it looks like we're heading into the hour, so I wanted to open it up at this time for any final thoughts that you guys have, and after that I'd like a closing, how to find you type thing. So, who wants to begin?
Eric and Ryan, one of you guys can go as the authors this evening, so we'll let you guys go. And
Okay. I guess my closing thought is everyone got into education to probably make a difference in a kid. And remember, create those awesome experiences. Be the reason a kid wants to come to school tomorrow, and share and promote the fantastic things that are going on in your school, and you're going to notice a difference. There's so many things in education that we cannot control, but the one thing we can control is what's going to happen in our classroom, how we're going to make a kid feel, and the environment we're going to create. Right.
And Ryan, how can teachers, other superintendents, other school leaders can get a hold of you? And
sure,
would you be willing to help them?
Yeah. I'm on Twitter. That's the best way to reach me on Twitter, at McLane, MCLANE_Ryan, RYAN. Or you can go to our book's website, yourschoolrocks.com. And the title of the book is Your School Rocks, so tell people. It's available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And we'll be more than willing to help anyone. If you send me a tweet, I'm going to respond.
Nice. Eric?
I think Ryan pretty well said what I feel about as a positive closing message, but I do think that the more people that join in this movement, I think this is how, kind of like the video where you have the guy dancing on the lawn. one person's a lone nut. You know, once you got one other person that joins in, you got a follower. That first follower is the most important. And the more people join in, now you have a movement. And I think that that's something that we need to do in education, is get people on the train so we have a movement and take control of our story, our public school story, our private school story, whatever that is, and we control the ability to do that. Same thing Ryan said, yourschoolrocks.com. Also, my Twitter handle is at EricLow21. And I also would respond to any message I get, and look forward to seeing people tell us why their school rocks.
Nice.
Great.
And Chet?
I love the way they kind of summarized it. For me, one of the things that I try to preach throughout my different classes that I teach with my students in pre-service candidacy is the students, it's a saying that I try to tell them, is that no student cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
And by getting the word out to parents, as much as we've talked about through the video newsletters, through the social media platforms, parent conferences, phone calls, written letters, any of those means shows the parents that you care and shows the kids that you care. One of the best advice I ever got was when I taught in the Philadelphia City Schools. My assistant principal came to me after my first year, and I was changing grades. I was going from first grade to third grade, and it was a rough first year for me in the district. It wasn't my first year teaching, but it was the first year in the district, and we sat down and I talked with him along about how I can be better the next year, and he said there's one piece of advice when you're working in an urban population. It's like you have to win the parents.
Yes.
If you win the parents, you're going to win the kids. If you're not fighting the parents on every step, then they're going to be supporting you more. So I try to tell my pre-service candidates, find ways to win the parents. And again, through the newsletters and everything that was shared here, I think that you're on your way very easily to winning the parents in both you guys' schools, and I applaud you very much for it.
Same here. I really do believe that. Everything that's been said has been amazing, so I really appreciate you all for being on, and I think we've come to the end of the show. Oh, and Chad, how do people get a hold of you?
Oh, sorry about that. You can reach out to me on my website. It's chadgmalcolm.com, or my Twitter handle is at chadgmalcolm. And like the other two gentlemen had stated, anybody who reaches out, I'll respond in kind.
Very nice. Well, thank you, everyone. We've come to the end of the show. This has been Teachers Talk Live with effective teacher-parent communication. If you guys could stay on another minute. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.